Melanie will get motions. Sarah will watch the video.
She won't have the answer.
All right, here we go. This is an open meeting under section 19.81 to 19.98 of the Wisconsin State Statutes. You all have last month's meeting minutes. Any need for corrections? Actually, I believe we're going to have to table this because myself, Joe, and Ken were the only ones here that are present tonight. And so we can't have excused people approving the meeting minutes. So we're going to table the minutes for next month's meeting, unfortunately.
But they're still going as typed right now. There's no change to them.
Okay. So Joe, you're saying they look good?
Yeah, they look good. We just have to wait for the quorum to.
I would
pass
agree.
them.
Yeah, I would agree.
We just have to table it till next month.
Yep, yep, until we have Kate here. And that's assuming that you two are here, and then we can approve them. All right,
Agreed.
all right, fair enough. Monthly staff reports. You have them in front of you? Randy?
Had a little more down than up in August. The trend had been this year's that most of our programming had been, our numbers had been up above 2022. A little more mixed bag for the month of August. Some of that's just due to the programs that were offered. But otherwise, not a huge blip in my mind.
Right.
Anything
Isn't
stick out
August
for
usually a
you?
transition period from
It
the
is.
summer sports to you get into the fall sports and stuff like that?
Correct.
And a lot of vacations and getting back to school, so your accounts are usually down anyways.
I would say that's accurate, Joe.
Yeah.
Anything stick out for you guys? You have a question on? All right, we'll move on. Any communication or correspondence, Randy?
None.
No appearances or public comments, no old business. New business administration, we have discussion on park fees in the future.
So, wanted to update commission on research staff has been doing with the emergence of for-profit vending in the parks, such as food trucks, beer gardens, fairs, whatnot. We wanted to see if we could find examples from other communities as far as what they're doing for collecting either a percentage of sales or a flat rate from vendors/events. At this point, staff has not been able to find a good example of vendor fees that other communities are utilizing. We researched Cedarburg, Grafton, Watertown, Oconomowoc. I believe we heard from Monroe, Green Bay. So I want to thank Sarah. She did a lot of the reaching out for this. Some communities won't even rent to those selling goods or beer. We realize that's not a likely option. But I feel that people that are making a profit in our parks, that an additional fee should be paid versus someone that is just renting for a gathering such as a graduation or family reunion, if they're utilizing our park for profit. You asked the question, why should someone making money only to pay what a common citizen would have to pay? So that's been something that's been going around in my mind. I've been discussing with staff. What we were really setting out to do is try to find an example of it so we could bring it to this body. That isn't to say that we couldn't be trendsetters and do something along these lines, but again, the first one through the walls always gets bloody. my initial thought was I would like to do a flat raise because getting a percentage is always tough because you have to get receipts from the vendor, whether or not that vendor is going to be honest or not, and then have them follow through on that. Now, I've also found in my short time with working with these food trucks this summer, a lot of times they want to be guaranteed they're going to get no less than $2,000 to show up to an event. Now, I know we've had a food truck out at our baseball. I know he was not making that on the night he was showing up, but he also came to the 4th of July, and I know he made out very well there. Again, so my goal was to find a way to establish like a flat fee, a small fee. I would, example, $50. So if Todd Rosniak wanted to come and host a beer garden for his service club, that we would tack on a $50 fee flat rate, and then see how that goes over the summer. It would be something we would revisit annually. But it's something I would like to see done. But again, I don't have enough examples or any examples for this body to say, hey, yeah, that's a great idea. Keep moving forward and let's get an executive summary together. So wanted to bring it to you to get your thoughts and ideas. Ken, in particular, I'd like to see what you have to say if you're familiar with, I don't know, just as a vendor selling, I don't know if you know of other communities that have something like that or be any knowledge of it.
So you're talking about, this would be outside of Centennial Park? This could be at like
This could be
Woodlawn
anything.
or
So,
someplace like that?
obviously, Centennial brings this up because this is
Yep.
what we want to see done there.
Yeah,
but,
because that's going to be.
and there is a, Steve Volkert, city administrator, has been in talks with a beer distributor, a non-resident that wants to come and host regular beer gardens within our park system. So that kind of pushes this along. So just finding ways, because putting numbers together of possible parks and places that this vendor would serve. Now, with that particular case, he wants every Saturday and Sunday, Memorial Day through Labor Day. So I'm not going to dedicate one of our more attractive locations, such as Woodlawn Large or Centennial. I'm not going to dedicate that to that person. I want that to be open for the public. Public's going to want to use that. I did find some, we'll call it offshoot locations within our park system that I think it wouldn't put people off too much. But that's another reason why I bring this up, just to see, my job is to find other ways to generate revenue. We lost revenue because of local competition, not necessarily in park rentals, but in other aspects of our department here. So this is one of the things I was researching and looking into.
I got a question for Joel, if you can answer.
For me,
Is just a run-of-the-mill vendor who wants to run a concession stand or whatever, let's say a cotton candy truck, wants to go down to Independence. Do they have to pull a permit of some kind from the city to do so?
I can answer that for you, Joe.
Randy, yeah.
So this isn't I don't want to call it an issue, but the same answer is here that I had when I was in Watertown. So initially, we direct this person to the city clerk to see if they need special event.
they call them like your transient permits.
Yes.
So like people like even the ice cream truck who drives around the city, he's got to get a transient permit to do it. And he'd be going door to door trying to sell roofing, siding, shingles, whatever.
Correct.
Gutter systems, and they have to go and get a transient permit to go through and have it. I would assume, depending on how it goes, they would need a transient permit unless it probably falls underneath the bigger picture, like if we do Maxwell Street Days or something like that. And I don't know how all that works.
So the situation we've had is if it falls within a park, it comes to my decision-making. The clerk has forwarded those individuals to me. And it is me, not necessarily this body. In Watertown, at one time, the ordinance read you had to take it in front of the Park and Rec Commission. And I think we amended that ordinance there So that became my decision, and if I'm not mistaken, that's how it's written up here. So now, for example, we had the food truck for baseball. Melanie she couldn't find someone to work our concession stand on Wednesday nights. They approached me and said, hey, is this a possibility? What can I do? So I allowed him. Now, if he would have tried to come, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, I would have told him no, because he would have been in direct competition of what we were trying to do. So that's why the city clerk sends it to me, and then I make that decision whether or not. So like 4th of July, there was no competition. My only fear was I would have had other vendors approaching me saying, oh, why didn't we know about this? And the simple answer was, well, I didn't reach out. They came to me.
You didn't apply, right.
Correct. So.
My biggest thing I would look at, though, in consideration when you talk about this, I don't know if $50 is enough, to be honest with you. I'll just be very, very blunt. Because
Understood, yeah.
I don't know what they're paying up at the high school during the pancake breakfast, but I think they're paying about $100 or some odd dollars for a little square booth, right, to sell your trinkets. The only thing I would look at, though, is in consideration when you do this is if someone's holding a fundraiser for a purpose, or a group is having, because that's like the Lions Club is doing a brat fry. That money's 90% of that money is going back into this community.
Correct.
So the point I have is, that's probably one way we can donate to this cause. So it all depends, if it's a for profit or if it's non for profit, and what's the purpose of it. For instance, and I'm glad you brought up about the food truck, because my question was, why do we have a food truck if we have a concession stand? Well, it makes sense now that we didn't have a concession stand that day. So the food truck was an option for that person. So I agree with it. So it's running a fine line. I don't know what the number is. I do agree with you that having a percent of sales is crazy, but what's the number to rent it? That's another question. And I think some of the bigger ideas, you're going to have this, but we're going to have this come up to us, is going to be when we have Centennial Park up and running, and if they have bands and you want to have this and you want to have that.
Yep.
What all is it going to take? So I think you're one step ahead of yourself in trying to figure this out now, and then you have set a precedence for how you, because we haven't had a big need for this at this point that I know of in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I could first see it jumping hugely.
So what I'll add to that is a reminder, this would be a fee on top of any park rental fee.
Right, no, I get that, I get
Okay.
that.
Just want to make that clear.
Yeah, no, I get that. That's like I said, even with the park rental fee, I don't know if $50 is enough on top of that.
I would agree with that. I wanted
To start.
I wanted to start low,
Yeah.
so that I'm not scaring off any vendors. And yes, I totally agree. I think the majority of our users that do this will be our service clubs, Lions, Rotary,
Yeah.
H Club, or whoever that wants to utilize our park for that. And yes, a consideration to,
Waiving
you're right.
that fee.
Those
Yeah,
service
yeah.
fees, those service clubs they're raising that money to put back into the community.
Right. I mean, that's just my point. I applaud you for looking outside the box and looking how to do things. You have drain one area. How can you compensate for it? In business, we all know that. Okay, so you're losing this. How are you going to make up for it, right? So I compliment you in doing that and the work that's been put into it. And I don't think as a committee you come up with or as a commission you come up with a strong, a strong plan. I think we're open enough to review and to most likely maybe alter but or approve it, something to that effect. So
Okay.
I think it's definitely something to look into.
If we were to consider something like this at, let's say, Independence, to take the place of a concession stand, what do you think you bring in? What do you think you net after paying staff on a nightly basis down at Indy?
I believe we still come out ahead, but that's also not considering the time and effort that Melanie's putting in at the concession stand. And that's not only weekly prep, but during the baseball season, that's daily prep. Melanie does not mean we've had this conversation before, but I'm still willing to bet probably about a third of Melanie's time is spent with concessions. Melanie, if you tell me I'm off on that if you want, if you really don't know, we'll go with We'll go with my percentage.
Well, I do know that we are ahead. Like overall, we have been
Correct.
ahead at least this summer. I mean, I do spend quite a bit of time out there, also helping, training, and stocking and making sure that we have all the stuff that we need. So I do spend quite a bit of time out there, I would say.
But I mean, maybe that's a reference point if you were to come to a net number. Maybe that's a reference point for a fee structure.
Okay.
I don't know. Any other comments or questions on the subject?
Yeah, I'll make, I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead,
Tyler,
Tom.
I'll make some
No, go
observations.
ahead.
And I, Randy asked me about that. So, it's with regard to places like Independence Park, when you have, lower volume opportunities and, we're putting a lot of time and effort into that, that's certainly an opportunity to bring in a third-party vendor. You evaluate it from the labor you have available and the profit dollars that you took out of it. So some of the lower volume ones, you could, that's a great idea. And there are certainly park and recreation departments that use third-party vendors for that. The bigger opportunities you usually like to keep for yourself, which would be, for instance, like, out, at Veterans, right? At Veterans Aquatic. I'm not sure I would third-party that one. Those tended to not turn out well, and the revenue, typically came in less. So it was a poor quality of service, poor selection, and then there was just fewer profit dollars, and that was in it for the municipality. I think the opportunity, as far as events at other parks, if you have nonprofits, I mean, I don't think you want to charge them anything. And then on the for-profit side, running food trucks and things like that, that's a tough business. They have a lot of overhead, a fuel. You almost view that as sort of a customer courtesy or, for that. So I don't know how much opportunity is there. I guess it depends on the event and what's going on. And you could look at it that way. I mean, in my mind, the real opportunity lies in operating Centennial Park right, in getting the model right. And that's where those extra revenue dollars that we're losing, at some of the rec center things, I think can be made up. And there's a lot of good, models to look at. You mentioned some, by the way, a couple more I would offer is I would certainly get with the Landing and the folks at the Hoyt Park Pool in Wauwatosa. I would also, look at for something like that, Randy, over at Nixon Park in Heartland. They do a great job. And so those are two good models for that. But I think that could really be the place that when we start, running events out of there, there's a lot of opportunity. And I think those are probably, it's better spent focusing on that, more time on that. I mean, we can look at some of these other things, but I mean, that's what I think.
Okay.
Because I think there's an opportunity to have a lot of people there. And so wherever there's a lot of people, there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of money flow. So, and I would say, by the way, for just about any of these models, I would agree that you'd want the approval to go through a director. You don't want to go for a percentage, right? Because then you're trying to track, you need software and things for that, and you want people to be able to pay cash. So flat fees are the way to go, at least as you get started. And vendors like that better too. They would rather pay a flat fee than they would take a percentage of theirs by a mile. So one of the reasons the Washington County Fair is a very successful county fair is they charge just for the location and not a percentage of it. I know customers of mine, they hate percentage accounts and they just won't go to them. Frankly, they just feel it's none of anybody else's business. So fine.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? All right, summer fun ticket sales.
Yes, so put together our reports. This is something we do annually. I don't think we advertised it to this body last year or if Mike had done it in the past. So just a quick background. Our summer fun ticket sales are tickets that we obtain through Wisconsin Park and Recreation Association, and it's built as a fundraiser for our department. So many park and rec departments throughout the state utilize this. We sell tickets on their behalf. They're discounted tickets, although they're becoming less and less discounted. And then we make 75 cents per ticket when we make these sales. So for instance, as you can see the report there, we did have a very good summer. We made $694.50, which was our highest amount since pre-pandemic, 2018. Staff is especially happy with that amount, considering one of our top sellers, which had been traditionally Great America, Six Flags. They have since backed out of the program, and that was annually our most popular ticket. So to be able to come back up to that level, and then so this money goes into the reserve account, and this is the same reserve account we utilize to purchase the golf simulator and its amenities. And that's where that money came from, and not from any fundraising for the skate park, just to be completely transparent there. So yeah, any questions on that?
This is a minimal cost really for us to handle in administration, right? I
Correct.
mean, they come up there, they pay cash, because I think it's cash or check, I think it's the least you gotta pay, and you give them the ticket and off they go. So I don't know, there's a lot, is there a lot behind the scenes that they have to do to maintain them?
Not much. You're correct. It is only cash. We don't accept credit card because then you add on the credit card fees.
Right.
It makes it not worth it for us. Staff's got to be very careful to make sure they're keeping tabs.
Right.
I'll admit, when I was in a different community, we didn't keep tabs, and we ended up operating at a loss because we had to pay for lost items.
Sure.
So once in a while, there's a ticket or two, but staff, to my knowledge, has never had a serious issue with
And
maintaining.
and basically, it's not, we're given a book of tickets or whatever it is, and then what we sell, we keep, what we don't sell, we give back to them, right?
Correct. Yep.
And since they're all, okay,
So that's why it's important for staff
right, to maintain.
to
the
mark
count.
down the ticket number that's been sold, so we know where we left off. And
I know by wristbands for swimming and stuff like that, working the front desk, they're pretty anal about those, and that's
Yes.
hard to keep track of, so I imagine they do a really good job with these, so
Yes, they do. So I wanted to share that with this body.
that's good. I mean, it's nice.
Good work. Rec programs and activities, let's talk first about the Halloween hoopla.
So our Halloween hoopla is coming up at the end of the month on October 25th. It's our annual Halloween party for ages 6 and under. It is at the Recreation Center Gymnasium. It runs from 6 o'clock to 6:45, so it's not 6:30, as indicated on here. It is 6 o'clock to 6:45. There's going to be a variety of games, and then some prizes, each of them, just little ones. And then we also have some judges going around and doing some costume contests. So there's no need to sign up. They just need to show up, and they get a little goodie bag and some prizes.
And as always, the rec commissioners are encouraged and invited to come be costume judges. I know Amy Hoffman used to regularly do it. I think Commissioner Troller made appearances as well, so. Melanie more than likely won't be there in a professional sense. So I'll be running it. I'll take as much help from Zach as I can get, but otherwise, yeah.
Don't make me appoint you as judges. The Pirate Camp,
So we have Pirate Camp, which is our preschool camp, all about pirates and becoming one, for ages 4 to 6 years old. It's coming up on Saturday, October 21st. Kids can come dressed as pirates. They get to become pirates, learn all about it through a craft game book, all of that kind of stuff. We do still have spots available. Right now, we do have 4 registered, so we could use a couple more kids to have that run.
and the glow-in-the-dark craft.
So Cheryl's fall craft classes for kids have been pretty popular. So this one is a full class already. It is being held on the 14th, and then the kids will be using glow-in-the-dark paint with paint transfers to decorate wooden ghosts. So it's kind of always fun to see what they come up with.
And the golf simulator update.
That would be me. We did host an open house in mid-September. Had about dozen to 15 people show up, just try it for free. Zach handled a portion of that as well as myself. And we've had a couple renters take advantage of our September special. We were doing half off for the month of September. But as great as the beautiful temperatures have been, it hasn't helped out our rentals much. We do have a handful of rentals. Zach had a rental on Saturday. That was our first Saturday rental. I believe it was a woman with her homeschool kids, and they get their gym credit for utilizing the simulator. We have had some city staff, other than the street superintendent, utilize it as well. We're able to use our wellness money towards the rentals. So we do have some revenue starting to come in. And then as the weather turns, we expect it to ramp up.
All right, adult new sports, we'll talk about the Winter Volleyball Adult League.
So for our adult volleyball league, we do start on November 6th. Packets are out now to sign up. Last year, we did fill our winter league, so hopefully, we can do that again, get it going. It is our most popular one. It is the longest one, around 14 weeks. All registration has to be in by October 24th. And it's kind of weird to think about, but fall is already halfway through for the league, so we're already looking towards the winter.
All right, and then Saturday sports.
So for football, we have Pee Wee football starting on oh boy, didn't write that down. Starting the 21st. I had to think about that. So it is starting the 21st. We have 12 kids signed up for the football. The spots still are available, so we can take a couple more. Kids will be learning the basics of football and kind of going through the simple process of it all.
And the basketball program.
For basketball, also starts on October 21st, our Pee Wee basketball and our youth basketball. So it's kind of a continuation between the two. We currently have spots available in both classes, but it is filling up. We have 12 signed up for Pee Wee basketball and 14 for youth basketball.
Okay. And the archery program.
So for archery, we have our next session that actually started today, right about now, actually. It is being taught by Alden, the former rec supervisor, so we are excited that he came back to kind of teach the archery. We did have that hole. It is a popular class, so we are excited that he kind of is bringing that back after a little hiatus.
I have a quick question.
Go
Where do
ahead.
we do that? Where do
Where?
we do that?
The Recreation Center Gymnasium.
It's in the gym.
Yep.
Is it
So-
with arrows with?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Metal
So
tip
it's
arrow.
kind of back in the corner. We have a curtain that goes across and some archery bullseyes, and
Yeah,
then they have to
okay.
go from there. Yep.
And we close the gym off to other users, so we don't
No,
have
no,
any
no.
drop
Yeah, I
in.
wasn't worried about that. I was just
So
curious.
if people want to do laps, they're not
did
going to be
that
able to go in
outdoors
there
or
at that time.
indoors.
Correct, especially behind the net.
Exactly.
Ken, you can feel free to walk in, see how they're doing after the meeting tonight. Just kidding.
That's awesome.
Just kidding.
Archery's an awesome sport, so. Good. And you said that's pretty well attended, Melanie?
Yep.
Yeah.
Our numbers are a little bit lower this fall, but overall, it's been very popular, and people have been wanting to. They're excited to have it back.
Good. That's great. Thanks.
All right, let's talk aquatics and vets end-of-year numbers.
So we included our end-of-year stats within your packet. So some positive highlights there. Our total attendance was up 2,500 from 2022. It was still up from 21 as well by about 1,500 there. Admission revenue took a leap of almost $200,000. Concessions was up 15,000, and our season pass sales were up $9,000. Lesson revenue was up $6,000, and our total revenue was up almost $70,000 from 2022. Now, we did raise some fees. That certainly contributed to that. But again, our attendance numbers were really good. As you can see on the top line there, our morning water walking was up by almost 800. Our overall open swim attendance was actually down by a couple hundred, but we made up for that with our evening swim,
Yeah.
where that jumped up about almost 1,600 there.
Yeah.
So it was a very successful year. Nothing, it didn't all come up roses though for us. As in our expenses, we doubled our budget for chemical usage. This is due to a variety of reasons, namely loss of water from some of our expansion joints. When the caulk gets removed, a lot of times kids pull on it. I joked around with staff like I totally would have done that as a kid. You see that, you can poke your finger in it, you can pull on it. And when you get enough of those removed, you have some significant water loss, so that was part of it. I don't, Brian, was there, you want to explain our weather was an issue as well, as Brian explained to me with such a dry summer, evaporation is certainly part of it. We have some natural loss, I forget the term, the splash loss, what do we call that? The
Splash out.
splash out, thank you. So with that, obviously this was something that Brian and I looked at, talked to a contractor, and we plan on taking some of our overage on revenue and putting that into recaulking almost all the joints. This is something we have done regularly in spot work, but this is something, in a perfect world, we would like to have it done this fall, but just with the timing of us finding out the reasoning and contractors' calendar fill up for the year, we hope to be able to get them in prior to the season next year. And as everyone knows, spring in Wisconsin is nothing to count on, so we're hoping for a good enough stretch of weather that fits within the contractor's calendar to get this alleviated for next year. So a little bad with our good.
Can you put a number to the expense?
The expense for the caulking is gonna go, I'm gonna say roughly about $25,000.
And can you put a number to the water loss or the increased expense? with the
So we budget, this year we had budgeted $16,500 for chemicals, and we spent, I want to say, right around $32,000.
Were you guys budgeting before or after we had the huge spike in in a lot of the chemical problems? I mean, we had that last year too, right? All of a sudden, 2022, just pricing and everything just skyrocketed. Did we budget at that higher amount or?
So, with anything, we talk to our providers and say, hey, what can we expect? They usually give us a percentage. We did that last year, and then actually this year, the price was up as well. I want to say it was up definitely more than $1 a gallon for what we were paying for chlorine.
Sure,
So-
that's what I figured. That's fine. I was just, like I said, as long as we budgeted, we didn't, you took some of that growth out, but we still had other growth we had to deal
Correct,
with. It
yeah.
wasn't like you budgeted at 2021 numbers and then you get your 2023
Correct.
pricing. You budgeted for the higher one, it just continued to climb, which I see that in the market right now, so
Right.
it doesn't surprise me.
And then, we do budget for a loss. So the fact that we're not only having a loss, but a profit. And again, we keep waiting for it to level off, and it will level off. But I hope it's not for a couple more years. We talk about concessions as we were before. And this year, we made $101,000 in concessions, where in comparison to last year, it was $85,000. And I remember it being my first few weeks here how busy Tyler was. He was literally going to Walmart, buying French fries and pizzas and whatever else. Luckily Zach didn't have that problem this year. And I don't want to say he didn't work as hard as Tyler, but he didn't have to put the time and effort Tyler did into concessions. And it was a huge success for us.
And I guess in summary, in consideration of the increased revenue and some increased expense, we're still not going to approach the taxpayer subsidy that's been budgeted for.
Correct.
We're not even gonna get close to that, will we?
No.
So, great job. Great job.
Can I ask Brian 2 questions?
Yeah.
A caulk, that seems insane that you can just peel a caulk out, that somebody can do. There's nothing more permanent than that somebody can't get out of there. That's more permanent, and it just strikes me as,
Well,
Really?
you have the caulk joints, and
Yeah.
they're 3/4 of an inch wide,
Yeah.
and they're about 6-8 inches deep.
Yep.
Somewhere over a foot, but it only goes in about a 1/2 inch, and you have backer rod behind that. So it becomes very pliable. So when somebody would push on it, or you have a little area that peels, and the right person sees it, it's gone. They pull it, they poke at it, it's fun, and they pull it out. Well, so when you do a few of them, it really doesn't make much of a difference, but I would say we were at about a 25% loss in caulk joints this year. But, so just realize that some of these joints were repaired prior, but some of these were just the original caulk joints that were still in the pool that were never completely cut out because we've never done the whole pool.
Okay.
So when you look at it from a standpoint as that, unfortunately, I guess this was our year that we had some failure
okay.
that you couldn't identify at the time of maintenance and filling because everything looked good. But when those little edges peel and you have multiple edges that peel, well, we had multiple areas that were pulled out. So therefore, thus you have the increase in water consumption from the water loss. So you have to treat that water. And when you have the bather load that we had this year, and we love it, but you have to expect more chemical use on that end too. And the lack of rain this summer really hurt us as far as evaporation because rain can have different effects on the pH of the water, which can enhance free and available chlorine, believe it or not, total chlorine. You don't have that availability of stability in water, and our water in the city is very alkali. So it really messes with the pH, which therefore then affects the chlorine residuals. So it's just the way the ball bounces throughout the course of the year. We try to balance it out with different chemicals, cyanuric acids, but at some point you're just going to add fresh fill water, and fresh fill water needs to be treated. So that's where we were at. Randy, did we double our water intake or close?
So
No, it was 300.
it was about 300,000 extra
300,000,
gallons, and now when
yep.
we talk about that, we utilize millions of gallons. So it could have been worse, and it's one of those things when you have such a short season. We saw the bills coming in, we knew there was an issue. We're not going to drain the pool, fix the problem, and then lose out on the revenue that we had. So again, the moral of this report was the positive still outweighed the negative, and hope.
So the number you gave, the 75 grand for next year, that would be to just do the whole
25,000.
25,000.
We're tearing the whole pool and new backer rod.
Okay.
So the other thing too is, backwashes. More people, more frequent backwashes, 7,000 gallons per backwash. On an average in a 7-day week, you're doing them twice. So if you really do the math, where we normally, in 2021, we were doing it once a week. That's all we had to do it. Sometimes here, we were not making a 7-day full week. We were doing it twice. So, it's what you have to do.
Anyone else?
Well, I think that's just part of the overhead that you gotta build into the costing for the pool, and so, you know,
Yeah.
things are going up to cost, that'll probably have to get reflected next year.
Yeah, I mean, and this is one of those things, and Steve likes to, okay, hey, you may not need it next year, but budget for it, and it's something to be carried forward. You know, Steve likes a budget that stays level instead of having the spikes, so that Joe doesn't give him such a hard time, is what he tells me.
Not the Park and Rec side, everybody else's though.
We'll move on to SignaCast and the open swims.
Yeah, so yesterday was our first open swim as well as toddler swim and water walking in the morning. It was pretty cool to see a bunch of kids come in for toddler swim and they were excited for the new water feature. And even just walking in there, you could tell that as they're going down, there was kids going down and then sprinting back to the top to go down again. And it's a constant cycle. So it seemed to get a very good response yesterday. Outside of the open swim and toddler swim, during our swim lessons, instructors are using it at the end of the day. Same thing, their kids are just cycling down that mini slide. So it's gotten a very good response so far, and I think our open swims are gonna reflect that.
And the treasure hunt?
Yeah, so next Thursday, the 12th, during our open swim from 3:30 to 5:15, we're gonna be hosting a treasure hunt in the pool. There's gonna be a bunch of little pirate coins spread around the pool at the start, as well as every 30 minutes. The guards are gonna throw in a couple more. Patrons can go in, grab the coins, bring them to the break guard, and they'll get prizes for bringing those up. So should be a pretty cool little event, and we'll be having another one of those in November, I believe.
And the pumpkin splash is the last one in October?
Yep, last Friday in October, 6:30 to 8:30 during our open swim, we're gonna have pumpkin splash. So there's gonna be a bunch of mini pumpkins spread around the pool, floating on the water, as well as little prizes hid around too, that people can go and grab and bring to the guards, same thing as the treasure hunt. And then along with that, we're also gonna have a bunch of little mini games for the families to compete in and then win even more prizes. So that should be a fun event too, and hopefully, since that's our first kind of big family event at the indoor pool, we should hopefully have a lot of people there.
Melanie, I have a question. Who's gonna buy the pumpkins? Zach? Because you did it last year, right?
Yeah, I got it last year. I think it was from, I think we
Okay.
got some donated
You'll
too.
talk to Zach about that, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the park project report.
I want to say we've done almost as much mowing in the last month than we probably did all summer.
Amen.
So that kind of explains the smaller task list there. Nothing too major on there. I'll touch on Homestead in a second. The Buck Skinner's encampment usually takes quite a bit of our time, prep and then clean up, getting ready for the flag football. 6 burials, 2 cremations, and then the normal restroom cleaning and shelter prep for reservations.
Okay. Update on Centennial Park.
So this was a cool report for me. I looked back at my notes from last month's meeting as to where we were at, and I had told this body, the concrete is gonna continue to be poured. We're thinking about pavement and all this. Every day, every week, a lot has happened in the last month. Concrete and paving has all been completed. We did add an extra pad on the north side of the pavilion. That'll act as we'll call it a patio for vendor trailers. Stick with the theme of the meeting here. The playground has been installed. If you haven't seen that, it's quite a sight to see. I didn't give it justice until I saw it installed and how big it really is. We are still waiting on word from Lee Recreation as far as the installation of the poured-in-place pad or path that will go through the playground. Once that's poured, our staff will bring in the wood chips to fill in the rest of that. Then once that's done, Wanderer will come in and finish installing the split rail fence. So that's what those metal posts are that go around it. So that's for the fencing.
That's a good idea. Kids from running into water,
Working with the beautification committee on a tree and vegetation plan from the original one from MSA. We made a purchase late last week. We picked it up yesterday, and a majority of the trees and bushes were planted today. And then also, if you haven't been by, yesterday, the Forte Bank sign and the clock both went up on the pavilion. So it's getting there. A couple things we are waiting on is the bollard lighting, and for the cameras to be installed yet, so we expect that in October. There's still some landscaping going on, and I expect to do a final walkthrough prior to our next meeting here in November, and then they'll, quote, turn the keys over to us. So right now, any issues that are happening are still on the contractor, so we're keeping our eyes out for that stuff. But, the park is officially not open, but it is being utilized. I mean, there's a green space. We would really prefer kids and families not to be on the playground. I know they have been, just for, safety factor is what we're looking at. Because obviously the proper safety surfaces aren't in place yet. So we ask those to refrain from utilizing it. I know it's big, I know it's exciting, but just be a little more patient with us, and once those amenities go in there, then, obviously the park's not open, but we're not gonna stop people from playing on the playground.
All right, and update on Homestead.
So our staff came in and put in wood timbers that act as the border for the port in place. We did that. Obviously, before that, the play structure itself was installed. We came in and did the timbers, and then I want to say probably a week to 10 days after that, Lee Recreation came and put in the port in place. Staff has finished up the landscaping around it, and that that playground is open for business.
Awesome.
Yeah, I drove by there a couple evenings ago, and quite a few people were out there, with family and little kids and stuff like that. And even some of the surrounding neighbors were out enjoying it. So I think it's a good hit. I have a strong feeling that Mr. Church will be back at us to finish off a couple more
Sure.
other features. But all in all, I think it turned out really nice. It's a great playground, and I'm glad to see it being used already.
It's not overwhelming to the
No.
park itself. I think it fits in nicely.
Yep, right into the neighborhood too.
I think it's tasteful. I like we'll call them monotone colors that we chose because it blends in. It's not as if we put pink and fluorescent green in there.